Welcome back, everybody. We are gearing up for the first actual round of play of the day here at the June AGE Open. Sam O'Byrne, Bryce Platts. We have got a pretty damn good Zen deck we get to watch in action in just a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Chris's deck is pretty cracked. We did determine that he is one of 2 Zen at the tables. John, his opponent, is one of 3 Enigma. And I was talking to John a little bit in the interim. He's feeling... John, just as a personal note, John never feels good about his draft decks. About anything.
He's mired in despair now.
Yeah. He kind of is, and then it's a bit of a joke on the team. Like, John will always look at his hand and say, "What the heck is this?"
Yeah,
and then hate you for like a 16-dominated arrow or whatever, right? So that being said, John is not feeling great because the 2 other Enigmas were on his right and passing to him. So ostensibly he was getting cut off for a lot of those really good Enigma picks, which also kind of explains why maybe we didn't see a lot of the Enigma gas and why we thought it was pretty open, because all of those Enigmas were just stacked up right next to each other.
And it goes to show, right? We had 2 Zen in this pod, but I was talking to Peter Budensic. He's one of 3 Enigmas, but he was well on the other side of the table and feeling really good about his deck. And there were 4 Zen in that deck and pod and 1 new. Right? It's just like every pod tells such a different story, and you can't go into any specific draft thinking, well, this is going to work because it worked last time, because the players around the table may have something to say about that. But in this pod in particular, the 2 of Zen decks and man, Chris's deck is looking good, but anything can happen in a game of Flesh and Blood, and especially in a game of Limited. If those wards start to go a little too crazy and Chris is not able to break through the defenses, it might be hard for him to shore up the victory. But we're going to get all of the answers, all of the questions answered very, very shortly.
I'll ask the questions here, Sam.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really hot match, and John's game plan, because he's pretty light on those really, really good Enigma bombs, are going to be protect the president, get one of those to stick, and really hope that Chris has a bit of a dud of a hand so he can capitalize and get a lot of value on one of those juicy ward auras.
Chris did end up with a lot of blues, though. 19, I don't know if they're 19 playable blues, but 19 blues total drafted, at least 17 or 18 playable, though. So it's, if he puts the deck together in the right way, it's going to be hard for him to break too immensely, because it's not like he's going to, I don't think he is too likely to draw an all red hand that he can't do very much with. If he's playing like 13, 14 blues, he's going to be relatively likely to draw one every single turn, and he's got enough to do so. He's even got enough to play around those new matchups potentially, and with 3 new in the pod, he's going to potentially, he's going to probably face one no matter what, win or loss here. But the players are gearing up and getting ready, so we're going to jump down to that match in just a moment. Let's go ahead and take a look at Chris Iaali, Worlds runner-up in the first Worlds ever, versus John Zapata. This is a Team AGE Pro Team matchup. It's Zen, it's Enigma. Let's go ahead and get into the action.
Sam, there's nothing quite like a team kill to start the day,
Is it your favorite feeling?
Yeah.
Just taking down your brother?
Definitely not.
I'm sorry, brother.
I mean, every time that gem populates and I see one of my teammates, you can hear us all screaming from the opposite sides of the convention center. No!
Yeah.
It's something you never want to see, but hey, we're at a 48-person tournament, a good percentage of which is the AGE Pro Team. Yep. It's going to happen at some point during this day.
Well, here we go. The players are drawing up. We did not get to see any potential die rolls. We see some cloaked equipment on both sides of the table. Just the stride of reprisal is the honest man's equipment here. We're going to see, it looks as though, just based on body language, it kind of seems like Chris is on the play. So he's taking a good long look at those cards. But here's the thing. It's turn 0, Part the Mistveil Limited. Do you really want to pass to Arsenal without an action point against an Enigma?
100% you do not. So Chris is just going to use this as an opportunity to play one of his less lustrous blue cards. Probably ask John to give him a card for something that is just not a lot of damage. And that can be an advantage if this game ends up going long. Less cards in the Enigma's deck means less cards they have to close the game out when it all comes down to it.
Absolutely. Tiger Taming Kakara going to be the first choice here for Chris on the offensive, and now he's in a really kind of interesting situation where he could pass with the Crouching Tiger still in the hand. It's a potential go again, and something he could keep in case he wants to keep John off of playing an instant speed aura, but instead just going to go ahead and throw it out here. Going to get the +1 from the Kakara, +1 from the Tiger Form Incantation, so just coming in for 2 here.
And I think this makes a lot of sense. As long as you are ending with an action point at your disposal and passing priority over to the Enigma, you're telling them that, nuh-uh, you don't get to do an instant speed aura here. And yeah, we're going to see that play out exactly as we said, as Chris passes priority, prepares to arsenal one of those juicy red cards.
And let's see, it looks as though priority has been passed. John is potentially going to go ahead and play something, but no, just going to go ahead and let the priority be passed. Like you said, a good red card in the arsenal. 1 blue card at the bottom, 1 blue card played out.
And we see what was tempting John over on the right here. He's not showing it to us now, but he did have a red haze shelter in the hand. And that's probably what he was thinking about deploying at the end of Chris's turn.
Going to be just the spectral manifestations. Yellow coming out, so 2 +1 counters on a spectral shield. It's coming in for free thanks to Enigma's hero ability. Going to go ahead and buy the block out of Mr. Iaali, and there is the haze shelter. So because a blue card has been pitched, 2 blue cards in fact, this is coming in for 4, though until a blue card is pitched on John Zapata's turn, it's only going to be ward 1. So unless a blue card is pitched, you'll only have a couple instances of ward 1 on the board for defense. Let's see if Chris wants to put any more blocks in front of the combat chain.
This is a pretty dang good start for John, considering he wasn't able to deploy anything on turn 0. You want to present as much offensive potential against your Zen opponent as possible. It's very likely that Chris is just going to take this here. He's going to cycle a little bit with this Aqua Seeing Shell. Looks like Chris, might have drawn up kind of a bricky blue hand, which is painful because everything you donate to block against Enigma is something you can't utilize to destroy their board and eliminate their offensive potential.
Absolutely. The Aqua Seeing Shell going to go ahead and be placed on the combat chain. You don't want it to just get destroyed at the start of the turn. So block 1, take 3, down to 17. First blood here in the first round of the Arcane Games Events June Open Series. Both players having cards head to the bottom of the deck from the pitch zone. Now let's see exactly what Chris can string together as the Mystic Ninja tries to take things to the mat. It's going to be the Tiger Taming Kakara to start things off too with Go Again, threatening those wards right off the bat.
So Chris, he cycled one of his blue cards. He blocked with one of his blue cards. He's pitching another one. He might have been a little bit blue flooded on that turn right there. But showcasing the power of the Aqua Seeing Shell in terms of digging through his deck a little bit. We didn't see exactly what was replaced there, but we have to assume that he kept a blue in hand to fuel the turn. So hopefully he got rewarded and found himself one of those 14 red cards that he drafted.
See how John wants to try to handle this, putting a couple cards down to the bottom of, or to the table there, trying to keep those for later. But like we have mentioned, these 2 wards being threatened right away with the weapon and the potential for 1 more damage down the chain.
So John, this often is not a very threatening thing, right? Tiger Taming Kakara for 2. In this case, John has to think at the start of the turn about how much he wants to protect these auras. Because right now, the Kakara was threatening both of them, which is all of John's offensive potential right now. If he doesn't have a way to rebuild his board, then he's got to find a way to protect the one he has. And Chris is sending an onslaught right now.
Yeah, so the Sky Foot Keikoi, the block 1.
Skywalker.
Star Wars one. My God, of course. Yes, the Darth Vader leg piece there. Going to go ahead and prevent the 1 damage and the Spectral Shield, blocking up both points of the Tiger Taming Kakara before the Biting Breeze. That was that Arsenal card set up on turn 0-3 with Go Again, pressuring the Haze Shelter. Let's see. Looks like John might be thinking about putting another card down. Yeah, it's going to be another. So here we go. Both of the red haze shelters that John was able to draft here at the very beginning of this game. 1 ward 4 is going to go ahead and be shored up by the haze shelter there, and the Biting Breeze going to take care of it. So now let's see what more pressure Chris is able to put down.
And this is a juicy one. Here comes Flex Clause for 4. The good thing for John is that if he has to let it go, which he will, Haze Shelter has already been turned on, and he's going to get his block value from it. So that Haze Shelter overall was 8 points of value because he swung with it on his turn, blocked with it on Chris's turn. It also stuffs Chris's ability to make a Crouching Tiger. And boy, would he like to deploy that Pouncing Chi in his hand after a Crouching Tiger.
Yeah, he'd love to get the +1 damage thanks to the Kakara. He'd love to play the Pouncing Chi, but going to go ahead and just stick it in the arsenal, set up a 5-card hand. John's only got 2 cards to work with, so let's see how much ward can he throw down. No ward. It's just going to be a 1 for 5, banishing a card, that Grave Keeping coming out. a lot of damage on one card in a limited format. That's a quarter of Chris Iaali's starting life total, as we've mentioned. And, gravekeeping here actually relatively relevant thanks to the preserve tradition that Chris did draft. That is a flex clause that is not going to be able to head to the bottom of the deck. And the Pouncing Chi is just going to go ahead and jump in on defense here. 2 damage coming across. Chris down to 15. John, no arsenal. 4-card hand. Let's see how much pressure Chris is able to put on. We're starting things off once again. Tiger Taming Kakara for 2.
And here comes a really clean bread and butter draft Zen deck turn, because we're going to go Tiger Taming Kakara, Harmony of the Hunt, create a tiger, send that tiger, it'll get 1 from that Kakara, and then Pouncing Key to finish it off.
That's pretty darn good if you ask me. Let's see how John wants to first just shore up this 2 points of damage. Tiger Taming Kakara, we've seen 2 for 3 points of damage with Go Again in Flesh and Blood's life cycle in Limited in the past. But the Kakara here spreading up that damage. If you draw a bunch of 3 blocks, it doesn't feel good to put that down in front of the Kakara, knowing that one of those points of value may be coming later down the combat chain. So very thematic, very flavorful having the ninja come in with multiple punches, kicks, and swings of the weapon rather than just these big onslaught of, single target attacks. It's going to be the companion of the Harmony of the Hunt? Yeah, Harmony of the Hunt coming in for 3 with Go Again, following up the Tiger Taming Kakara.
And it's those little tickles, those little punches that you were talking about that make Zen such a nuisance for Enigma in this draft format, because usually she has a board that in which she has to protect, and that becomes so much harder when the value of a turn is spread out over so many cards in 1s and 2s. The silver lining in John's case right now is that he has a really healthy life cushion and no board that he has to protect. Furthermore, he's holding on to a Spectral Manifestations, which is one of the best board reinvigorators in this draft set. So this is one of John's opportunities to say, send me the bill, and I will reestablish and regroup on my turn.
Couple Chi cards being played in response to each other. Got to start off with the Rising Sun, Setting Moon to make sure that once you draw and bottom a card, it's already seen a blue card played. So it was the Drop in the Ocean as the second card played, but first card resolved for Mr. Zapata here. We can go ahead and see he's going to go ahead and bottom a card as a result of the Rising Sun, Setting Moon, and might have 2 Chi cards now in his hand, or at least the one from the Rising Sun, Setting Moon, but the 2 damage is going to not be blocked. It's now time for the Crouching Tiger coming in for 1, thanks to the Kakara, threatening to equalize the life total nice and early. John Zapata got to go ahead and think about blocks, got to go ahead and decide exactly what cards he wants to utilize for defense here. And it is going to be another Pouncing Chi. This one just coming in from the hand, so here's 3, Go Again.
Yeah, and that makes me wonder, I didn't actually catch the color of the Pouncing Key that's in the arsenal for Chris. I have to assume it was a red one, and maybe Chris is opting to hold back that really juicy breakpoint for when it will hurt John more, namely when he has reestablished a board.
Yeah, looks like he's going to keep it. It could be some damage now, but he wants it to be even more damage later, and he wants it to pressure some ward pieces. So time for Chris to just go ahead and draw on back up, utilized the cards as best he could, and no ward was presented, and now John's all the way down to 12.
And here comes the rebuild of the board. So John is, I think, still holding on to a Spectral Manifestations. It's interesting that he's not playing that first. I'm wondering if it's probably in a lackluster color, probably a blue, so maybe he's going to use it to fuel something else this turn.
Yeah. 2 damage just accepted by Chris Iaali. Both these players walking down together with these life totals. Chris at 13 to John Zapata's 12. And this is going to be a fact-finding mission with another card played out here. So here, look, Chris is having just a little bit of a laugh here. This one's going to be coming in for 6 damage.
And John is going to hold back a Waning Vengeance, which is going to be a really good arsenal target, and hopefully help him reestablish or protect a board further down the line.
Yeah, so it looks as though maybe that Spectral Manifestations was the bottomed card thanks to the Rising Sun, Setting Moon. So here is fact-finding mission. Just going to go ahead and check out either the equipment or the arsenal here. And it looks as though Chris is just going to accept the damage because that's 6 damage. That is not another piece of ward. He's okay to happy with that. But we're going to go ahead and play this at instant speed just to get some more ward out. We knew we wouldn't be able to attack with it. So Chris may be thinking, okay, he's just going to have an arsenal here and I'll take the 6 damage. But then John brings on down the Waning Vengeance.
And this is, even though John is not feeling great about his deck, this is exactly what he needs to happen. He needs to put an immense amount of pressure on the Zen's life total to make it so that Chris can't form those like 5 attack wide chains. But here we go. Let's see if Chris can clear this board.
Tiger form incantation, going to go ahead and give the next Crouching Tiger +3, which is actually relatively big on this turn because we can see a couple of Battlefront Bastions in John Zapata's hand. So that would have been a perfect shore up of the Tiger Taming Kakara and the Crouching Tiger, but the Tiger form incantation is going to have something to say about that one here.
Yeah, not this time, John. Very sorry to say. Luckily, he's still got a couple pieces of cloaked equipment. I think, however, based on what we saw on the deck list, those are Uphold Tradition and Truths Retold. So those are probably not going to be the best pieces of equipment to have on his board on this turn. I think he would. This might be one of those turns where he'd rather have more Kikois because it's going to be really hard to protect those auras with breakpoints of 4 coming in hot.
All right, looks as though that is going to block all 4 of the damage, the 1 prevention and the ward 3 from the Waning Vengeance. Luckily for Chris, no blue pitch on this turn. It was a yellow Pouncing Cheese, so this one's coming in for 3 with Go Again, thanks to the Crouching Tiger as the last attack on the combat chain.
Chris still holding on to a Biting Breeze and a Harmony of the Hunt. So likely only one of those is going to get deployed here because he doesn't have any floating resources. Biting Breeze is probably going to be fine as a follow-up attack. He's going to be sad that he can't utilize the Tiger that it creates, but I think at this point we just want to get rid of those Ward Auras.
Yeah.
Because if Chris has basically a green light to keep a 4-card hand and present as much damage as possible, that's exactly where he wants to be.
Yeah, so taking 2 cards out of John Zapata's hand, both Battlefront Bastions. Chris is now setting up another 5-card hand for himself. 2 cards left for John Zapata. Let's see what ward piece he wants to deploy. Wasn't able to keep that Spectral Shield around. So important for these Enigma decks to keep around a Spectral Shield that can attack for free with the +1 counter. It's 2 free with Go Again, but it's going to be that red Waxing Spectre. Now, here's the thing that I'm curious about. Chris doesn't know this, or actually, I think the players do have open deck lists because this is the feature pod. So Chris, if he's been paying, attention to the deck list, there's not much left in the way of John Zapata's good red threats. This is his 1 Waxing Spectre. We've seen the 1 Waning Vengeance. He's blocked with the red Battlefront Bastion, right? There's 1 Spectral Manifestations played. So
we saw both red Haze Shelters.
Yes, both red Haze Shelters. Exactly. So from this point forward, if Chris is, able to weather the storm, there's just not the same amount of offensive pressure from these big red ward pieces. So John Zapata's turns from this point forward just simply won't be as effective on offense. So let's see if Chris is able to kind of weather the storm from here long enough to not fall prey to little pings and little points of damage from smaller auras, because this is about as effective as these turns are going to be for John moving forward.
And usually that's okay for the Enigma player because they can put on enough pressure to where just pitching those chi cards over and over again are enough to close the game out. However, even if Chris takes this 4, he's still ostensibly got 2 block in his equipment suite. It depends on whether he brought in the kimono or the kikoi in the chest slot. But ultimately, I think he's going to be okay to just present pressure from here on out.
Tiger Taming Kakara coming in 2 with Go Again, immediately threaten the Waxing Spectre. It did have that +1 counter.
Luckily, John has another Battlefront Bastion in his hand. He's going to showcase how important this card is on defense for Enigma.
That is going to go ahead and shore up the damage and 1 prevention floating. So it's time for a Harmony of the Hunt. This is going to go ahead and create the Crouching Tiger as we show a little bit of the harmony between the attack action and the token ephemeral tiger being created there. But this is 3 damage, and this threatens to eat up that 1 prevention that John Zapata is floating unless he can put a 3 block in front of it.
Yeah, and he really wants a 3 block here because if he has it, then he doesn't have to care at all about that tiger coming in next, which is the biggest threat, even though it's the smallest number to his Waxing Spectre. Unfortunately, he doesn't seem to have it, so he's just going to say, I will eat it up.
And is going to let the Waxing Spectre die, go ahead and take the damage here from the Harmony of the Hunt. But the Crouching Tiger then eats up that final point of prevention, and then here we go, 4 with Go Again. There's the red Pouncing Chi this time. So much more damage, so much more effective than those yellow cards. It looks as though it's going to be a single-minded determination heading down to the block for this, and then now look at that. You don't have to go ahead and utilize the text on the card. It's just going to be a 0 for 4. It's the pack 1, pick 1, Bryce, and it's coming down another 4 damage.
This is why this card was Chris's pack 1, pick 1. Sure, it could be a Chi Unleashed, but this is a, let's see, 2, 5, 6, 10, 14 damage turn that leaves Chris with an arsenal. That's going to be really nasty. These 0 for 4s, if you're not prioritizing them, maybe consider it.
Yeah. Now, John's hand here, I believe one of them is, I think, a Stir the Pot or another Transcend card. So there was no option to block there. Let's see if he has a blue card to play with it. The answer is no, it's just going to be the Solitary Companion, but it's going to come and create a Spectral Shield as well. So a blue Transcend card in the arsenal there for John. Wasn't able to be blocked with.
Which is not bad. Ultimately, this Solitary Companion is going to be 4 block, and it will likely be donated to the block at this point, life totals being what they are, and Chris with a 5-card hand. Yeah, Red Untamed coming in. This is a good start for Chris.
Ooh, and there's another Transcend card in the hand. There's another Stir the Pot. If that is what is in the arsenal, couldn't see it exactly, but Red Untamed here now going to go ahead and give the next Crouching Tiger +1, and if the Kakara joins the fray, that will make the next Crouching Tiger, it'll come in for 2.
Now, I didn't see what ended up hitting Chris's arsenal, but based on what he has in the hand, we don't have a definitive way to generate a tiger at the moment.
Yeah.
Seems like he's just sporting a Flex Clause, which is could generate a tiger, but only on hit. And John could have something to say about that, especially with the board that he has presented.
Yeah, and John here, without using any offensive pressure for Chris, he wasn't able to utilize that Stride of Reprisal. So instead, it's just going to be 1 for 4 into 1 for 4. Comes in and immediately threatens to put John all the way down to 1 here.
And this is interesting because I want to shout out Chris's sequencing here. He has to play both of these Untamed before a Tiger, obviously, because they are providing the buff to the Tiger. But because he is presenting it before the Flex Clause, he's forcing John to consider going down to 1 before he plans out the rest of his blocks. Now Chris is going to slam down a Flex Clause, and whether or not John likes it or not, he'd better block this out. Otherwise, he's going to be facing down a Tiger for 2.
Nice little 4-card hand, 12 points of offensive pressure. You love to see it on the attack here if you are in Chris's spot. This is threatening John's entire life total, and we are going to go ahead and have to play both Stir the Pots at once. We're shuffling twice, but more importantly, we're transcending twice, which means on this turn, if John needs it, he's going to be able to activate that Enigma hero ability, grab the Spectral Shield, which might be what he needs to keep him alive.
You still really hope that John is holding on to a 3-block here. Otherwise, this is going to be an incredibly uncomfortable blocking situation. And Chris still sporting some really important pieces of equipment. At some point, if he gets a bricky hand that can't generate a Tiger, all good. He'll just block with those feet and go super wide once again.
Let's go ahead and see exactly how John wants to handle this turn here.
2-2 blocks.
Oh, and if that would be the case, then we might be just coming in for the Spectral Shield on his turn. Looks as though he's thinking about shoring up a block here. We can see he's got, I think, another Solitary Companion. That might be
And a Spectral Manifestations
yeah,
in blue.
He's getting ready to throw that down to the block here. It looks as though the block 3 is going to be presented here.
That's fascinating. He just throws 2 in front of it. This Tiger is going to hurt because all of a sudden it's threatening lethal.
Yep. Whew, look at that. 2 damage coming across. John has to think about this one as well.
That's kind of, if John, I think that might have been a bit of a misplay from John because he ended up blocking with both of his 2 blocks anyway, and he could have thrown them both in front of the Flex Clause to prevent that extra 2 damage. I think that might just have been a little bit of a brain fart from John Zapata.
Looks as though we're going to be, is this at the end of Chris's turn or not? It looks as though, oh, now here's the thing. He's keeping the Chi card because if Chris just has no blocks, that cloaked piece of... Oh, no, he is doing that at the end of Chris's turn. Okay. So that is why the card just went to the bottom of the deck, is because at the end of Chris's turn, John created the Spectral Shield. But now he does have the blue card in the hand because he can make a Spectral Shield with Enigma's ability, or if Chris just has no blocks, he could just be straight dead to the Uphold Tradition that is in John's arm slot. Now,
very cheeky.
Chris should know about the Uphold Tradition here because they were able to look at deck lists before this round, thanks to Chris being on the feature match here. So let's see if Chris is able to sniff it out. He knows that's another Chi in the hand, so that could just be another Spectral Shield, but this could be the time. But no, of course, we're going to go ahead and at least put the 1 block in front of this, grab the Tiger. If Chris wants to, can definitely stay alive here, he's going to have to do so. Let's see, though. He's really giving it a think.
I think he's wondering if he can safely donate one of these cards to to defense. Yeah, no, it looks like he's just going straight for the feet, which means that John could go ahead and flip his uphold tradition and get Chris down to 1. But we know if he does, then Chris is going to flip that kimono.
Yeah.
Which I'm sorry, that's the
Is the
not,
Keikoi, I think. Or is it the kimono?
it depends.
Yeah.
He was able to choose. Oh no, we saw it on Fact Finder mission. It
Yeah.
was the Keikoi. You're right.
It is.
You're
Okay.
right.
Cool. So 2 Spectral Shields created, 2 points of defense, but this is, the 6-card hand here for Chris, including the arsenal with the Crouching Tiger created from the Stride of Reprisal. So you have to imagine this is when Chris Iaali wants to close this game out, but we do have the final Battlefront Bastion here. Blue Harmony of the Hunt is going to be the follow-up, so we're going to make a second Crouching
Could we see
Tiger.
a Transcend here, Sam?
We very well might, Chris. We don't know how many Transcend cards he brought in, but I think that is the preserved tradition. So this one's going to be coming in for 1. The Crouching Tiger is not going to eat up the 1 damage. Oh, it is. So the 1 damage prevention was from the Battlefront, taken by the Harmony of the Hunt, but now it is time as the Spectral Shield goes ahead and eats up the Crouching Tiger. We are going to preserve tradition, put that Pouncing Chi back on the bottom of the deck, and it's time not only to go ahead and resolve the card, preserve tradition, but now we have the ability to activate Zen, get our 3rd Crouching Tiger in our, available to us of the turn, and grab any card we want with combo.
And
maybe it's
what
just that
do you think it's going to be? Here it is.
Maybe it's just going to be the Pouncing Chi that we put on the bottom thanks to the preserved tradition. This is why during the draft process we highlighted the power of this card in all the decks, but specifically in Zen. Preserved tradition says, I'm going to put this on the bottom, and I'm going to put it in my hand.
And what is Chris going to say? What do all Zens want to say over and over again? 4.
Go again.
4.
Yeah.
4.
So that's going to eat up the Spectral Shield and the 3 block, that second, the Pouncing Chi that was just grabbed. And there is another Emissary of Wind here. This is
Tides.
Emissary of Tides going to come in, get the +2 because we put the card on the bottom, which was that Crouching Tiger just created. We can flip 2 pieces of ward over because there is the final piece of, the final card in the hand was a Transcend card. No blocking here. Just going to put it on the bottom.
John goes to 1 and is going to have to say pass back to Chris. This is showcasing, like, we've heard about the Transcendless Zen deck, but Chris showcasing why, it's really nice to have 1 or 2 in that deck because you get to do some nasty things, Sam. Putting a Pouncing Chi on the bottom of your deck and then fetching it immediately, that's all right. That is exactly what Zen wants to be doing, and it couldn't be a better time for it because decks are getting thin.
And no more Battlefront Bastions available to John Zapata. Do have a blue Untamed coming in, so now that Crouching Tiger that we know is in the hand from the last turn is going to be coming in for 2. Let's see if Chris is able to find one more piece of damage here. It's going to be the red Blanche in the arsenal, the 3 for 7. We talked about it during the draft, did we not? Saying that Blanche would probably do some major work in the matchup. I think a lethal attack is about as much work as you could want a card to do. Chris Iaali is going to go ahead and move on to 1-0 after that game. He was down to 2. That game was not necessarily just a complete barn burner for Chris with no sense of recourse from John. He had some good tricks, but like we talked about, those big red pieces went away early, and he was not able to continue the onslaught, continue the pressure, and Chris moves on to 1-0.
And honestly, I think John was pretty lucky to have found all of his offensive pieces so early. There was kind of an awkward turn with the Haze Shelter being devoted to block. But that was pretty much as good as that could have gone for John. It's just that he is the 1 of 3 Enigma facing down the cracked 1 of 2 Zen.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the way draft goes.
Absolutely. What a game from our 2 players here. Thank you all for sticking with us through the match. Now Chris moves on to 1-0. We're going to have to wait and see exactly how the rest of the pod shakes up and shakes out. But he's feeling good to take that first win here at the AGE Open. 2 drafts today. This is just the first. We got plenty more games and even another draft before top 8. But if you're in Chris Iaali's seat, you've started off just about as good as you could ask for.
It's entirely possible that we're witnessing a 3-0 Zen deck here. I want to highlight that point. We just found the pieces that we needed, packs 2 and 3. It really came together for Chris. And the lines are really humming.
Yeah, and for John, right, like, he put up such a good fight and has some of those big red pieces, and the Battlefront Bastions put in so much work. He had to deploy all of them on defense, but the 3 for 7, just attacking with the Battlefront can put in, just do crazy things. We saw the Blanche there end the game. So John's certainly not out of it. Going down, your first game in the draft pod is not where you'd like to start, but the submarine from 0-1 into 2-1 is the same 2-1 as another, as the other 2-1s in the pod if you're able to continue to win out from there. So congratulations to both players, but, Chris Iaali moving on to 1-0.
Very unfortunate that Chris had to kill one of our own, but I think John is very comfortable in the submarine captain's seat, and I entirely expect to see him do all right today, despite the fact that he took a loss.
So we're going to go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break before our next round. We're going to have Michael Murray jumping back in the booth to bring you the action. So don't go anywhere. We got more Arcane Games event part, the Mistvale Draft AGE Open coming up very soon. We'll see you in a second.